In this video, we'll be going over part 3 of unique paths, which is the bottom-up approach of the solution. Let's go over the thought process. We will need to convert the memorization approach to a bottom-up approach. Now, we have to ask ourselves, where do we start? In the memorization approach, we have cached m and n with the number of unique ways. This means we can create a 2D matrix, ways to keep track of the number of unique ways for all possible combinations of m and n. To keep track of the total number of unique ways for all combinations of m and n. Now, before we move on, we have to ask ourselves, what are the default values inside the ways matrix? When m and n are both equal to 1, that means we have reached the top left corner. That means we have found one possible way. Then when m or n is equal to 0, then we have went out of bound. We have failed to find one way. So the number of ways is equal to 0. Now let's go over the pseudocode. So we're going to create a 2D matrix. Ways to keep track of the total number of unique ways for all combinations of m and n. Then we're going to iterate through from 1 to n, denoted as I. We don't need to iterate through from 0 because it's going to have a default value of 0 ways anyways. And we'll iterate through from 1 to n, denoted as j. Same case, we do not need to account for 0 because 0, if m or n is equal to 0, then the number of ways is equal to 0. Then we'll say if m and n is equal to 1, actually if I and j is equal to 1, we're handling this case here. Oh, it's equal to 1. We have found one possible way. So we're handling this case. Then this means we have reached the top left corner. So we're going to set ways ij to 1. Then we're going to continue to next iteration. Then we're going to set ways at the current ij to the sum of moving leftward and the sum of moving upward. To the sum of, so the current one is moving leftward, so it's the column minus 1, and the number of ways of moving upward, so it's the row minus 1. I minus 1, that means we're going upward. Then we can return the number of ways if we start from mn, which is the bottom right corner. Now let's go over to time and space complexity. So the time complexity is going to over mn, where mn are the length of the two input numbers, or the values of the two input numbers. Because it's the nested for loop. And our space complexity is also mn, which is the ways matrix. Now let's go over the code. This one's the memorization approach. We're going to change it to the bottom-up approach, so we're going to delete that. We're going to create a ways matrix m plus 1 because we want 0 to m, and m plus 1 0 to n. Then iterate through from 1 to m. Then we'll iterate through from 1 to n. If I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 1, that means we're at the top left corner, so the number of ways is equal to 1. Then we continue to next iteration. Then the total number of ways at the current cell is the number of ways going leftward, and the sum of the ways going leftward and the sum of the ways going upward. So it's the sum of going leftward plus sum of going upward. Then we're going to return the number of ways if we start from the bottom right cell. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below.